For 67 days, a stray cat visited Joe's fish shop with the same unusual request. He would bring a leaf and wait patiently for his fish, like any other customer. Joe had grown to love this gentle visitor. But one morning, the cat didn't show up. And when Joe finally found him, his life would never be the same. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this one. And write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. That morning, 67 days ago, when Sushi first appeared, nobody could have imagined what would happen. He sat in the shadows near the shop, watching, studying, learning how customers exchanged money for fish. Then one day, he walked right in, clutching a leaf between his teeth. He got in line and waited his turn like everyone else. When he reached the counter, he jumped up and gently placed the leaf in front of Joe. The shop went silent. This tiny cat was trying to buy a fish with that leaf. The shop filled with gasps and laughter. He had watched customers offer paper money, and to him the leaf must have seemed the same. He wasn't trying to steal, he was offering what he had the way he understood it, an honest trade. He wanted food just like everyone else. Joe stared down at him. This tiny cat sitting there holding a leaf as though it had value. How could anyone refuse? "Well, little friend," Joe said, smiling, "I suppose we can make a deal." Joe bent down, picked a small fish, and handed it to the cat. Sushi seemed thrilled with his prize. He grabbed the fish, bolted outside, and sat down to devour his well-earned meal. Everyone watching couldn't stop grinning. It was one of those beautiful moments that stay with you. The story spread quickly through customers, and everyone kept talking about the smart cat who came to buy fish with a leaf. Nobody thought it would happen again, but they were wrong. The next morning it happened again. Joe was busy in the back when an employee came to find him. "Your favorite customer is here," they said, grinning, "and he's got his payment ready." There sat Sushi, standing in line, leaf clutched tight, waiting patiently for his turn to buy more fish. Joe couldn't help but smile. He was happy to help him. Joe's family had run that fish market for many years. During his youth, he would go with his father on fishing trips to help gather what they would sell later. Joe handled the fishing duties and his father stayed behind to manage customers. Over time, they built the business slowly. Now that Joe ran everything, he still went out on the boat once or twice a week, though mostly his workers handled the hauls. Over the years, their customers had gotten to know them well. Some had actually watched Joe grow up. But despite all those years and all those customers, nobody had shown the loyalty that Sushi the cat showed. Rain or shine, hot or cold, Sushi came every single morning. Some mornings his leaf was wet and wilted from the rain. Sometimes it was just a fragment because the rest had fallen apart. Still, without missing a morning, he came to buy his fish. "Rain or shine, here comes our friend," Joe told his wife. "Always shows up." Joe started setting aside a small fish specifically for him. And on mornings when Joe was gone, his wife and employees knew exactly which fish to save. It became clear that Joe had developed deep affection for his tiny customer. He often wondered about Sushi's life outside the shop. Where did he sleep? Was he safe? Was anyone taking care of him? Finally, Joe decided he couldn't keep wondering. He had to take action. He chose a quiet spot behind the shop and turned it into a cozy space just in case Sushi needed it. He placed a sheltered cat bed under a covered area with a water bowl and some cat food. Sushi kept getting his daily fish, obviously, but Joe thought he could use something extra sometimes. And though the cat seemed healthier, Joe knew winter was coming. One fish a day wouldn't be enough to keep him strong when the temperature dropped. Joe lived right next to the shop so he could look through the window to watch Sushi. And when he finally saw the small cat sleeping in that bed, resting peacefully, it felt like a real victory. "Look at that," Joe said to his wife, pointing at the window. "He's using the bed." Joe's wife and the shop employees smiled watching him. It seemed a bit funny watching this tough fisherman get so excited about a small cat. But that's exactly what happened. And though he kept it quiet, Joe's wife had secretly started planning for the possibility that when winter came, they might have another furry family member joining them. But nobody could have predicted what was coming. Before the cold weather truly hit, Sushi didn't always sleep in the little shelter Joe had built, but it was clear he knew it was there for him. That mattered. He had a safe place whenever he needed it. Most mornings, even if he skipped a bed, he kept visiting the shop on time, leaf clutched tight, ready for his fish. Then, one morning something felt wrong. Joe had been running errands most of the day and he came back to the shop just before closing time. The moment he walked in, his heart sank. The small fish he always saved for Sushi was sitting on the ice, completely untouched. That had never happened before. The employees hadn't seen him all morning. It hit Joe hard. Something was clearly wrong. The cat hadn't missed a single morning in more than 60 days. Where could he be? "Has anyone seen Sushi today?" Joe asked his employees, already knowing the answer. "No, sir," one worker replied. "We kept looking for him, but he never showed up." Joe acted immediately. He kept the shop open an extra hour, hoping Sushi might still come, but he never did. He checked the shelter outside, finding it empty. The water and food were completely untouched, too. Joe felt worry growing in his chest. He walked around the area, quietly calling for the cat, looking in small corners where he might be hiding. No luck. Then he grabbed his car keys and drove around the neighborhood, headlights scanning the streets as darkness fell. He called out while driving, slowing down to check every spot a cat could hide, but it was useless. Eventually, he returned to his house, heart heavy, hoping there was some innocent reason for Sushi's absence. That night, Joe barely slept at all. His mind kept worrying. His wife tried to comfort him, saying the cat would probably come back the next morning like always. Joe wanted to believe that. But when the next day came and the fish sat there untouched by midday, his worry turned into real fear. "Something bad has happened to him," Joe told his wife. "This isn't like him." His wife took over at the shop and Joe left again, determined to find the small cat. The employees promised to call him right away if Sushi showed up, but that call never came. And just as Joe feared, something was wrong. Somewhere nearby, Sushi was in real danger. Joe became desperate. He drove around again, stopping often, checking every place he could think of. Narrow alleys, under porches, behind buildings. He knew Sushi wouldn't have gone far. He never did before. But now it seemed like he had vanished. The hope Joe had been holding on to started fading. Sushi was so small, and the world felt so big and far too quiet. Then Joe passed a park, and something made him slam on the brakes hard. Just beside the road near the grass, he saw a small furry bundle that looked very familiar. His heart dropped. He had hoped to find Sushi hiding somewhere, maybe hurt, but still alive. But this small shape wasn't moving. Joe's body tensed as he got out of the car, fear growing with every step. Any other morning, if it had been another animal or just some random debris, Joe might have driven past without thinking. But not today, not with that color, not with Sushi still missing. He had to find out. He walked closer, holding his breath. And then, there he was. It was Sushi, but Joe couldn't tell if he was alive. Just as panic started overwhelming him, the small cat lifted his head slightly and looked at him. He was alive, but barely. His body was covered in wounds, and one of his legs looked completely broken. The other was bent badly. It looked like he had been hit by a car and then left by the roadside. Joe felt his heart breaking. What could he do? Technically, this wasn't his cat. Sushi had just been a regular small visitor, not someone's actual pet. But standing there looking at that gentle face, at the leaf he carried in every morning, Joe instantly knew his choice. "Don't worry, buddy," Joe whispered, gently lifting the injured cat. "I've got you now." He carefully picked up the wounded cat and rushed him to the vet. He didn't care what it might cost. This little guy had fought so hard just to get a fish every morning. He mattered. Joe wasn't going to abandon him now. The vet examined him right away. It wasn't good news. Sushi had serious wounds and injuries all over, and both back legs were hurt, one broken and the other badly bent. Surgery would be needed, and even then, recovery was going to take time. But the vet staff thought there was a good chance he could make it. "We'll do everything we can," the vet told Joe. "He's a fighter." While Sushi stayed at the vet clinic for treatment, Joe worked very hard trying to find his owners. He just couldn't believe a cat this gentle and smart didn't belong to someone. But after a thorough check, they found no microchip. Signs were posted all around the area and calls were made, but nobody ever came for him. It was hard to accept, but it seemed like Sushi truly had no family to go back to. At first, that made Joe sad, but as the days passed, a different feeling started growing. Hope. Joe had never owned a cat before. He grew up with dogs and didn't know much about cats at all. But this small leaf-carrying, fish-buying cat was special. And Sushi seemed to feel the same way. Every time Joe visited, the cat would light up and try to get out of his cage just to reach him. He would curl into Joe's arms and stay there, completely calm. Joe liked to think that Sushi appreciated him, not just the fish portions he brought every morning. The way the cat responded to him, the trust in his eyes, the way he settled down when Joe held him, it felt deeper than just food. They were getting ready to bring him home, to make him part of the family permanently. But then a phone call changed everything. Someone called and said they thought Sushi was their missing cat. "We think he might be our Bella," the woman on the phone said, her voice full of hope. "She disappeared months ago, right around when you said this cat started showing up at your shop." Their cat, named Bella, had vanished months earlier, right around the same time Sushi first started appearing at the fish shop. It was possible, they said, that he had just been wandering all that time. They sent some photos, and honestly, the cat looked a lot like Sushi. Joe tried to feel happy for the cat. After all, finding your real family should be a good ending. But inside, he couldn't help it. It hurt. He had been planning to bring Sushi home. It already felt like Sushi belonged with them. The morning before Sushi was scheduled to leave the vet clinic, the family came to see him. They were hopeful, excited, but things didn't go the way they expected. The woman looked at him carefully and said, "He doesn't look exactly like Bella." But they tried to rationalize it. Maybe the accident changed how he looked. Then the vet opened the cage, and Sushi rushed out straight into Joe's arms. He didn't pause. He didn't even acknowledge the couple standing nearby. When the woman stepped forward to pet him, Sushi backed away. And when she reached again, he hissed, "Bella, sweetheart, don't you recognize me?" The woman whispered softly, tears starting to form. That shocked everyone. This was a cat who had always been gentle and polite, even around strangers at the shop. It was hard to watch. The woman was crying, leaning on her husband, saying she couldn't believe their precious Bella would act like that. It didn't make sense. If this really was their cat, wouldn't there be some recognition, some sign of familiarity? That's when the vet decided to ask about their cat's medical history, and that's when the truth came out. Bella, their missing cat, was a spayed female and had been microchipped as a kitten. But Sushi was a neutered male and had no microchip when they first brought him in. No matter how much the couple wanted it to be true, Sushi wasn't their cat. "I'm so sorry," the vet said gently. "But based on the medical records, this definitely isn't Bella." It was a painful discovery. They had searched for Bella for months before finally adopting a shelter cat. As for Sushi, his choice was clear. Joe was his human. When he was finally cleared to leave the vet, there was no question where home was. They drove back toward the shop, but Joe didn't take him there. He took him next door to the house. "Welcome home, Sushi," Joe said, carrying him inside. They'd prepared everything: a soft bed with warm blankets, toys, and a heating pad for cold winter mornings. What Sushi chose first was a small plush fish. He gently picked it up, carried it to his bed, and for the first time in his life, fell asleep knowing he was safe. That first winter they kept him inside while he healed. When spring came, Sushi only ventured as far as the fish shop next door to visit Joe and greet the customers. "There's our celebrity," people would say, "the cat who pays with leaves." The cat, who once traded a leaf for food, now had everything: a warm home, all the fish he wanted, and most importantly, a family who loved him. Did you enjoy this story? If you found Sushi injured by the road, would you have helped him even though he wasn't your pet? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.